I hope you're holding your phone with two hands if you're watching on the phone, because you may drop it on the floor as you watch this ANC MEC falling all over himself, being asked simple questions about the construction mafia. But if you stay with me until the end, you will find that we're not just complaining citizens. We're going to do something about it, because we are on a mission, especially up till 2029, because we are determined, we are convinced, we have accepted it as a reality that South Africa will prosper. You ready for that? Good. Press like. Let's go. So, there's a school that's being sabotaged. 135 million school project crumbles as Joburg chief whip faces construction mafia allegations. There's a gentleman by the name of Sthembiso Zungu. So Sthembiso Zungu, Johannesburg Council's chief whip, has been accused of using his position to control development projects through the business forum where he once served as chairperson. Locals, including a community liaison, claim Zungu coerced contractors into surrendering portions of project funds to businesses linked to the forum, with one school governing body member alleging the forum is the main obstacle of development in Vlakfontein. And in 2019, Zungu, along with forum affiliates, was sentenced to 2 months in prison by the Gauteng High Court for violating an interdict. So the court had told them not to disrupt 70 units of the Lihaya housing project, where Zungu allegedly demanded facilitation fees amounting to hundreds of thousands of rands to ensure that the project can continue. At the time, he denied being involved. He also denied that he was sentenced to 2 months in prison for contravening the interdict. It's now clear how much time Zungu actually served, but sources close to the matter said that he spent hours in Johannesburg's correctional facility. Singabako Nxumalo said the department has no record of Zungu being held at the facility. So, more recently, Zungu and the ward's business forum have been accused of disrupting a 135 million school refurbishment project and bringing it to its knees because they didn't pay the comrades the facilitation fees. The refurbishment of Inkululeko Yesizwe Primary in Vlakfontein started in 2021 with a budget of 135 million, but it's over. It's stalled. However, Thabo Mtumba said the school's refurbishment was dragging on. This is an important project for our children and the legacy of this area. We can't have a small group of people preventing the progress of our society just because they want to benefit from everything that happens here, said the resident. So a subcontractor who was part of a team responsible for fixing the school says they had to pay more than 800,000 in facilitation fees to comrades, while SMMEs within the ward's business forum made payment demands without doing any work. The subcontractor, who asked not to be identified, said the extortion efforts were so severe he was almost muscled out of the project completely. He says when you start work in whichever area, 30% of work to be done needs to be allocated to the small businesses in the area. But we found ourselves in a situation where the small businesses were pushing for more of the stake. They wanted to take over the entire project. Amandla! If we go back 2 months to 25 April, there he is on stage, probably talking about apartheid, probably talking about how when the constitution came into being, it was a compromise because we should have taken economic power and not just political power, and all that Marxist nonsense. City of Johannesburg Chief Whip Sthembiso Zungu's career has progressed. over the past 5 years. Despite allegations of extortion that resulted in the Gauteng High Court jailing him for contravening an order preventing him from accessing a development site in his ward. Zungu and his associates were sentenced to 2 months in prison for contravening a court order that prevented them from accessing a site in Lehigh, south of Johannesburg, where about 70 houses were being built in 2019. According to the sources, the trio demanded and received facilitation fees. However, city development's problems were reignited when the company failed to pay the fee because of a disruption in cash flow, which stemmed from constant harassment that threatened employees and subcontractors and brought operations to a halt. The developer got a court order preventing the trio from accessing the site, and when they broke the order, they were sentenced to 2 months in prison. So it's not clear how much time Zungu served in prison, but sources close to the matter told that he only spent a few hours, much to the astonishment of the locals in the township. And the Department of Correctional Services says they have no records of Zungu as an inmate at the facility. Zungu, who has steadily worked his way through the political ranks, is the ANC branch chairperson, Zone 2 secretary, ward councillor, and City of Johannesburg's chief whip. When questioned about the allegations and prison sentence, he said, no comment. Let's hear his colleague higher up in the ANC structures answering about this construction mafia mess.
Well, the rise of construction mafia and extortionists has become a challenge in South Africa, risking economic growth and many infrastructure projects not being completed or abandoned due to the high levels of criminal acts. The latest involves allegations of an almost 550 million rand rehabilitation project of the Golden Highway in Johannesburg, which was halted due to alleged intimidation, extortions and assault cases in what has been described as construction mafia disguised as business forums. Well, we've got the MEC, Gauteng MEC for the Department of Infrastructure, in studio with us to address some of these questions. Jacob Mamabolo. MEC, thank you. We really do appreciate you coming into studio this morning. This is a bad incident that has happened, but what's going on with this?
So maybe let me start by saying that, the importance of infrastructure delivery to grow the economy, to create jobs, to improve the quality of lives of the people as requested by our country's constitution remains very, very important. And there's both national and global consensus about what infrastructure can do. So any disruption of infrastructure delivery, any acts of criminality, people parading themselves, masquerading themselves as business people, when actually what we're dealing with are acts of criminality, should be strongly condemned. And I think we should call on communities as well to be very vigilant in protecting their spaces to make sure that we can deliver productive assets to them.
All right, great. So he says we should all strongly condemn these acts of criminality, and communities must get involved. We must all make it happen. Now, keep watching, because you are about to watch him do it himself when a member of his party, his name is going to be brought up, and he will strongly condemn. Listen.
We're seeing a gradual decline in the total number of some of the projects that are actually being affected by these syndicates and criminal acts. So for that, as a province, we must commend the rest of government, the three spheres of government, integrated law enforcement to crack on this issue. Yeah. However, we still have some of the cases where, we are seeing people making those demands, disrupting projects. What is good, though, is that we're seeing government put in a lot of money. Just last week in Cape Town, there was an infrastructure symposium where huge amounts of money were announced.
Okay.
But I think the challenge is, whilst we are tackling very decisively, and the coordination, the integration, the issue of extortion and the construction mafia. But I think on the other hand,
I want to ask
overall
you,
performance.
and I understand that you need to talk to us about some of the positives, but I want to focus on what's going on. I mean, this is a massive project, this Golden Highway project, which is desperately needed. When we read some of the affidavits that were filed in the Pretoria High Court, Lone Rock reported their employees were shot at, pistol whipped, threatened with murder, repeatedly blocked from entering this Golden Highway site. These incidents spanned from March to April. Why is there extreme violence? Why is it allowed? It's basically unchecked. I can't think of another way to describe this, that this is allowed to be unchecked, that these guys are going in there and creating havoc.
Can I just take a slightly different approach that, it is not that it is being allowed to happen. I plead to hold a different view on that.
Were the SAPS there? Were the crime operations there to stop it while it was happening?
Yeah, and that it's going unchecked. Let me assure you that whilst I acknowledge the enormity of the problem, the complexity of the task, and of course the evidence coming out of this particular case, but I'd like to emphasize that that national government and ourselves as province, including municipalities, are working on this issue. It doesn't mean, for example, in this particular case, we have been able to deal with the matter in relation to what you raised. So it remains a problem. Yeah. We do accept that. That is why the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure called even a much more dedicated conversation, dialogue, to discuss this issue, to plan around how to deal with this issue. And that is precisely because the issue is quite complex and the issue is quite big. But that shouldn't lead us to conclude that it's unchecked. It's being allowed to happen.
It's worrisome.
Absolutely.
We agree. And so, I suppose I'll have to wait to see if the police or any other law enforcement were there at that time to try and control the situation. However, what's even bigger, and I know you say this is a very complex issue, which it is, because when we start hearing court papers revealing that local taxi associations and ward councillors are involved in this, and we'll get into the specific ward councillor who, to be honest, from reading his past, shouldn't be in this position in the first place. They instructed police to leave the site. This is a very deep nexus. I mean, the taxi associations involved in this, your ward councillor. I mean, these civic entities and local government structures, how are they being infiltrated like this?
So let me just say I've had an opportunity at some point. I've worked with the taxi industry. I've seen some of these things, violence, how it's happening. So it is true that in most instances, when syndicates and criminals plot and plan some of these things, of course, they go get killers and cabbies in the hostels, in the taxi industry. But in a nutshell, two things are important. One is that these are acts of criminality.
Indeed.
Number two is that we should, at all material times, uphold the principle of the rule of law and confidence in our law enforcement officers. We will also get to the matter of the councillor that is allegedly involved. But the principles of the rule of law are very important, and confidence in law enforcement. So we will deal with this matter, go to the bottom of it. It may take long, it may appear unchecked, it may appear, being allowed to happen. Police were not physically there. But I can assure you, the might of the law might take longer to get to the bottom of this, but it definitely will.
But MEC, I'm not understanding, because you have got basically ward councillors that are in positions that you know of, taxi bosses that are demanding police leave scenes and they're not allowed to be involved. You have got a ward that is led by somebody called Sthembiso Zungu, who has previously been accused of extortion during a housing development near Lenasia South, where a contractor obtained a protection order against him and two of his accused. So he did spend 2 months in jail for defying that order, but he's back and he seems more powerful and he's in this position. You know who they are and who are the taxi bosses. So I know that you're working and you're saying the cases may be becoming less, but the people are there for you to identify, to go in and do something. How can someone like this be a ward councillor? And this is the second time it's happening, if not more.
I really think that one should make this point and emphasize it that at the end, this is a criminal case, and we should leave this matter in the good hands of our law enforcement officer, in the hands of the entire criminal justice system. They will deal with the matter, and I'm quite confident.
Okay, so he goes on with future faking, gaslighting, every kind of. He's asked, but you know the guy. He says, nah, just leave it to the cops. But you go to conferences with the guy, no, let's just leave it to the cops. But you are in the same party as the guy, no, let's just leave it to law enforcement. We don't need law enforcement. You know the guy, he's your comrade. How about just start there? Do something about your own comrade who's now on a third time being accused of the same thing. But of course, we know ANC will defend their comrades rather than defend the country. Why? Well, because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. See, what we are suffering as a country is that we have allowed a criminal network to capture our state. How do they hide? They hide behind revolution, transformation, black economic empowerment, and every black thing you can think of, and all the nonsense that they do. Why? So that the people whom they rob, which is the black majority, their eyes are closed to the fact that they are being robbed. The largest freeway that leads into Soweto has the development halted. Who suffers the most? The Sowetans. What will they do about it? Nothing. Why? Because there's a nice story of black economic empowerment, transformation, employment equity, all the nonsense that revolutionaries, fighters, and comrades use to block people's eyes from the fact that they are being robbed blind. And because this has been well structured, so many evil works have not been punished quick, and so these guys are now their hearts are fully set in them to steal, deceive, and destroy, to rob. But we won't let it happen. I want to tell you two things that we're doing. Number one, if you happen to miss the video up here where we put a submission to Parliament, please go watch it and make your submission to Parliament. Number two, we are working on an action, and I ask you to go down and see it where it says see our next big move. If you haven't gotten your name on that list, get it on there, because we are about to do an action that is going to ensure that the evil work that has been executed in our country is at least exposed, and you can be a part of that. And so that's why I want to thank all of you who are involved with the Prosperity Pledge. If you are not part of it, then please go down there and be part of helping us to do what we're doing, because we are committed that South Africa will prosper. So no man can serve two masters. Either he'll love the one or hate the other, or he'll despise the one and honor the other. You cannot serve God and Karl Marx. So let's make history together. Cheers.